Bienvenidos a Sparcing Chicos. Esta semana es Noche de UFC. Guys, we got Noche UFC this weekend. We're going to start with the main card and work our way up. We got Grasso and Shevchenko for Mexico Independence Week. Let's get into it.
I must say, Simon, that was very impressive.
I appreciate it.
You're
Man.
putting a lot of time into your Spanish, so I'm glad you put it to use a little bit.
Yeah, I've been working on it, man.
I think it's bringing your waspy quotient down right now. It's really good. I like it.
Okay. Muy bien.
All right, Alex, you want to start us off with the first fight on the main card?
So kicking off the main card, guys, did a little scouting on this. We got Fernando Padilla versus Kyle Nelson. So Fernando Padilla comes from a couple of different amateur circuits. Had a couple fights, one recently in the UFC against Juliana Rosa. Incredible finish, pinpoint striking. In my opinion, the finish was a little bit earlier, but still, he got dropped multiple times and he was getting landed on at will. Fernando Padilla, if you follow his earlier career, he had a lot of fights where he was physically overmatched. Okay, so we're talking about a lot of big guys able to take him down at will, control him. But what's weird is he would stick around in those fights. He wouldn't get put away. If you look at his fights, you see a pattern of a lot of decisions. He takes people to the end in those early fights. And a lot of these guys are a little bit more veteran than he is. And they were able to control him, but he was able to land on the feet. So in this fight, I'm looking for a similar dynamic. Kyle Nelson is a vet. He's a kind of a little bit of a journeyman, maybe transforming into a gatekeeper at 145. Padilla is a guy who, if he grows into his body, he's got pinpoint striking. He's extremely long for the division. I could see really bright things for his future. I believe UFC is setting him up with this fight. They want him to get a brutal finish here to kick off the card. Kyle Nelson has the ability to spoil that. He definitely does. He can drag him into deep waters, be very tight and safe. If that happens, it'll be a little bit of a boring fight. My pick on this one, I do have a feeling that Padilla is going to put Kyle away, perhaps somewhere near the mid to late part of the second round. What say you?
I tend to disagree a little bit. I think this is going to be a snooze fest. I think Kyle Nelson is going to try to get close to Padilla, take him against the fence, and just hold him there. Kyle Nelson's a stronger, more physical guy. I think he has more of a wrestling background. Padilla's just going to stand there and I would say stand and bang, but he's not really an aggressive fighter. So I think it'll be a lot of standing, a lot of jabs. A pretty boring fight, to be honest with you. But I think Kyle Nelson is an underdog, but I think he has a decent shot at winning by decision. Just because he's a stronger guy, he's going to use the fence to his advantage and just draw it out for 3 rounds.
I'd have to agree with Alex on this one. I think this is set up for Padilla. I mean, Kyle could definitely spoil the party, but I just feel like they wouldn't set up Padilla with someone that he would lose to. So I'm going to have to go with Padilla on this one. I'm going to agree with Alex.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Kyle Nelson's a veteran, like you said, so, I mean, you can never count him out. Padilla had that win in his debut against Erosa. Controversial finish. I think Erosa was still there, but, it was a great accuracy shown in that fight. So he's definitely the skilled guy in the striking department.
Yeah. It could also benefit Padilla to have kind of a test, so not sure about. I know a lot of people they could definitely see a knockout, but there's nothing wrong with Padilla putting on a good show and just having a good test. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on. Alex, you want to kick this one off?
Absolutely. So here we got a similar dynamic body-wise. Daniel Zaluber, he's long, he's lengthy. Let's be real. This is another setup from Dana White here at NOCHE UFC, which, bottom line, it's a very tightly matched fight, but we got 77-inch reach, very long guy. You look at his record, okay? It speaks for itself. We got 13-1 against 20-10. Christos Gauges, listen, we love these guys, but he's a 50 fighter. He's a 500 fighter, okay? If I had to have a knock, just a little bit on the UFC, right, is that the setups are getting a little bit more obvious. I feel like maybe since betting has become so popularized, they're doing a lot of things to induce betting, like fights like this. So you're seeing wide ranges. You're seeing a lot more massive differences, a lot of big, giant favorites. It's exciting. But at the same time, Brad, I know before we started, you kind of had a take on why this is good to build the Mexican fan base and the market of fans in Latin America. Do you feel like maybe it's fair to see these kind of mismatches when the goal is to build that fan base and you don't necessarily want to invite everybody to watch your guys lose?
I mean, if you want to call it a mismatch, I mean, Giagos did lose to Thiago Moises, Armin Sarukian, so he's had some tough guys he's gone against, unfortunately. I think the dude's dangerous. I think he has a shot to make this an upset. He's got power in his hands. If Zahuber leaves his chin out for a second, it might be over. So we'll see. He's 24 years old, Zahuber. He's got great potential, like you said. A lot of these Mexican fighters are young on this main card. I think the fight before this, he's 26. Daniel is 24. Then you have, of course, Rosas, who's 18. So, yeah, they're definitely bringing in these younger talent, the Mexican fighters, to kind of grow the sport in Mexico, along with Moreno, Grasso, Yair Rodriguez. They're going to grow the sport for sure. I think, like you said, it could be, just trying to get some wins under their belt, get their name out there, especially in the home with a home card. But Giagos is no slouch, man. He can easily shut the lights out of Daniel.
And you would think that we would have, learned our lesson picking favorites against Brad after Sean Strickland wins, but he's a perpetual dog.
These are two live dogs. This fight and the fight before this, these are two live dogs that can easily upset. So if you're a bettor, I'd be careful putting these guys in your parlays.
I will say,
in my opinion.
I will say that just real quick about the marketing. I thought the marketing for this card has been done very well. It's not a pay-per-view, but it just has a great vibe to it. But back to these fighters, I think the pressure can beat them more than the fighters could. I think just the pressure of it, being about their culture, being about their home country, being on the main card, live on ESPN Plus. These, like you said, these are definitely set up for them to win, but it's not kind of like the next fight we're going to talk about with Rosas. It's not going to be about that. But yeah, I think the pressure is going to get to them probably more than the fighter will, and that's where I think maybe Brad can see that see those upsets.
The moment can be a little bit much sometimes under the lights, and it's all about you. It's like, all right, it's your turn to show up. It's exactly. A lot of pressure.
Speaking of that.
Ooh, speaking of pressure, we got Raul Rosas Jr. Against Terrence Mitchell. So here's the deal. They should have never put Rosas on main cards. They should have built him the way they build people in Bellator, the way they build a homegrown prospect. Scott Coker, listen, I know it may not be the number one promotion in the world. It is what it is, but Bellator's got some savages, and they do a wonderful job of building prospects from the ground up. We see guys coming in and out of there. AJ McKee, he is spectacular. And he's a prospect that they built him from the beginning. Raul, I would have loved to have seen him just get a little bit more of a gentle build, maybe like a couple more lower level fights before they threw him to the Wolves. His last fight, it was a tough one. You saw him kind of get sunned. It was almost like man strength versus a teenager, which literally is what it is. That being said, Raul has got an incredible ground game, and his backpack, it's incredible. I believe he even trained a little bit with Marcelo Garcia, who is one of my jiu-jitsu heroes. But I think that this is a get-well fight. It's a get-well fight. It's an opportunity for him to step down a little bit in competition. That being said, I've checked out a little bit of Terrence Mitchell. And I got to say, he's, I think, definitely really underrated. We got two guys coming off of losses. Both of these guys need to make a statement. They don't want to go 2, 3, 4 in a row. We know what happens at that point. I have to say, I've got a weird feeling that if Raul doesn't take him out early, Terrence could be one of the biggest shockers on this card. If he can outlast him, use his length, that'd be a shocker. And I hate to see it, but I can see it.
Yeah, I mean, Rosas is minus 700, which It's surprising, but it's not
Insane.
surprising, right? Because he's got so much hype, which probably gives him such a huge, betting odds advantage. But yeah, he's Mitchell spent a lot of time in Alaska with the promotions there. I believe he hasn't lost since like 2016 before his fight against Cameron Simon, who's also a South African
Really?
dog. That dude's good. But yeah, I mean,
Simon's a
Mitchell hasn't
freak.
lost, I think, yeah, since 2016, I think. So it's not like this dude's not talented. He's got skills, so it's not. I mean, I don't know, man. This is interesting because Josos hasn't been tested much. He's 18 years old, so I mean, there's a lot to learn still.
And by the
Yeah,
way, when I said Simon's a freak, I didn't mean the fighter. I meant our host, Simon. He's a real freak, okay?
you know it, dude. But no, back to Simon. I think that fight is kind of telling. It's Simon's like a good up and coming fighter. I think that was another setup. I think they're putting Terrence in another setup situation, like feeding him to the wolves a little bit. I guess not feeding to the wolves. It's more just giving him a tough fight, another tough up and coming guy. We're gonna talk about this later in the best bets, but I think Rosas definitely finishes this fight. I think not that the loss is good. I don't think losing is ever good, but hopefully that opened his eyes, made him train harder. I mean, we saw some of the clips of him training with Aljo. He got a lot of mentorship from some of the other fighters. It's hard to see a guy like that lose, and we've seen a lot of upsets recently, but I don't see this being an upset. All right, time to move on to the co-main event.
We got a banger on our
Awesome.
hands.
We do.
We got Kevin Holland, Jack Della Maddalena, both 185-pound prospects that at this point, after last weekend, middleweight just became a marquee division, which is great because historically been slightly lackluster. It's been a little bit of a weird division. For every great title fight you've seen there, you've seen a Damian Maia versus Anderson kind of dud. So there's a lot of things that can go sideways in this division. I think the skill level as weight cutting has increased and people's knowledge of weight cutting has increased. We're seeing more skill level at this division instead of guys that are kind of blown up 170s. I'm really big on this lately, guys, is the idea of, is the game plan reproducible? Is the game plan something that I can recreate? We're going to talk about that in the main event, by the way. Can it be reproduced under pressure? Kevin Holland had a fantastic showing against Michael Chiesa, which actually hurts my soul because I love him. He's a great fighter, a great guy. We see Kevin Holland catches him in a darce, which, oddly enough, they clearly scouted Chiesa very well because he's very susceptible to the darce. If we remember all the way back in the day, I believe at 155, Jorge Masvidal caught Chiesa in a darce after rocking him many moons ago. But bottom line, Kevin Holland is a guy who is an opportunistic fighter. He takes opportunities. He doesn't necessarily force opportunities. I see that as a massive difference between these two guys. Della Maddalena is a dog. It oddly enough reminds me a little bit of DDP in the sense he's just pig-headed. He just moves forward. His grappling is absolutely stupendous. If I'm not mistaken, there's been a calf slicer recently from this dude. But the thing is, he has a game plan that I believe he can bring out on any given night and execute. Kevin Holland, it's been a little hit or miss. It's been moments of just utter brilliance, like the knockout against Buckley. Oh my goodness. It's freaking beautiful. And then for every one of those, I get the Wonder Boy fight, which, I love seeing Wonder Boy win, but there were moments during that fight where I felt like if Kevin had decided to take it down to the ground and keep it there, it might have been a very different fight. So he's a little susceptible to getting into, I guess you could say, a dick measuring contest when he's striking with people. He needs to avoid that big time because Jack's got heat. He's got heat. You can't underestimate that. It's a really interesting fight, though, because at the same time, guys, Holland could at any point right the ship. And if he gets serious, guy could be a champion. I truly do believe that. If he gets his IQ right, if his coaches get him in line, we could see something amazing from him. I'm not so sure that this is the start of that tonight.
I think it might be. I think I think Jack Della Maddalena is a little. I think he's a little overrated. I don't think he's had stiff competition as of yet. I mean, if you look at his past wins, Randy Brown's probably one of the bigger names he's fought and won against. He did catch him in the first round. That's probably the closest matchup you'll see that's with someone that's like Kevin Holland as far as size-wise and skill level, maybe. Or not skill level, but I'd say just like stylistically. I think Kevin Holland's too much. I think on the feet he's too much. I think in the grappling department he's too much. I just don't think Jack Della Maddalena has met his match yet. And I think it'll happen this weekend.
You know what? I think I got to agree with Brad on this one. I know Jack's an up-and-coming prospect. I know there's a lot of hype around him. I do got to feel for the guy having all these canceled bouts, but he finally got a good matchup. But Jack's last performance kind of scares me a little bit. I think personally I think Kevin is the more talented fighter, and that's kind of a hot take. But it's if he wants to be the more talented fighter. I think to win this fight, Kevin definitely has to take it to the ground, kind of like he did with Chiesa. I don't know what Chiesa was even doing, but if Kevin Holland can take this to the ground, I think he can easily get a win.
Yeah, and Jack.
We can't forget.
Go ahead.
Well, he was in there with Chimaev, Brad. I mean, that's got to count for something. Kevin Holland, I mean, he's been in there with some freaks.
The thing is, it's what Kevin wants to do, right? It's if Kevin wants to go in there with a good game plan, I think he has a legit chance. I mean, I just say he's going to win. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think if Kevin goes in there with a good game plan, 100% can definitely win this fight. But will he stick to the game plan? And that's the big question. The talent's there, man.
Caught.
And Jack has something to prove, so that's a tough matchup.
There was a time where, Holland was talking to DC in the middle of a fight against Derek Brunson. I need that to stop, I think. And as long as that is pulled in and reined in and he doesn't worry so much about the crowd, I mean, to your point, guys, what if Kevin Holland just started working behind a jab and just said, hey, come get me? It'd be incredible. So it might be where
he's
untaps
got all the
that
potential in the world. His potential is incredible. He just has to put it together. We'll see if he does. I think he has a good shot this weekend at giving Jack Della Maddalena his first loss in the UFC.
We'll see, dude. We'll see. All right, so now it's time to move on to the main event. What this card was built on: Alexa Grasso and Valentina Shevchenko. How you guys feeling about this? It's a rematch. Obviously, Grasso won the last fight.
I think no matter what happens, there's going to be an army of MMA simps that are going to come out of the woodwork, out of Instagram, and just riot in the streets. Okay,
they already have, actually. So I've seen you out there, Alex. I've seen you in the comment section.
Lurking. No, I mean, Valentina is gorgeous. She is, but she definitely she feels like she could kill me, so it scares me a little bit. But here's the deal. I've been a fan of both of these ladies. I've seen their whole runs. Valentina is at an interesting inflection point in her career where it's like, all right, what is this fight for your legacy? Do you come back, you get this title, and it cements you as one of the greats? I think she's already one of the greats. She's got a lot of defenses on that title. She's only lost to Amanda Nunes. One of them was a little questionable, but I still gave it to Amanda. Bottom line, there's a Liz Carmouche loss as well over cuts that Valentina came back and avenged. I bring that up for a reason. So she fought Liz Carmouche again the second time for the title. Guys, this was one of the worst fights I have ever seen for a title in the sport of mixed martial arts, barring no organizations. This was a real snooze fest.
Over Rose Namajunas versus Carla Esparza.
Ooh.
Not as bad. You're right.
Okay. Just checking. I'm just making sure.
Every show. Yeah. I'm gonna do it every show. Esparza, my legend, my hero. So basically, Valentina came back. She did avenge that loss, but in the most safe, bland way possible. Now, listen, I understand there's severe physical consequences to going out on your shield. That's not what I wanted to do. When we concluded our podcast last week on these picks, we spent a little time talking about this off the record. You guys at home, you don't get to see the off-record conversation. That's a secret. So, bottom line, I wanted to pick Grasso. I really did. And I went back and rewatched the fight. She was in and out. She was landing on her with boxing. She did a lot of great work. She got out of a mounted crucifix. She did so many things well. But Valentina was very surprised at the range management. She was surprised that she was getting tagged and Alexa was in and out. She overreacted. When she throws heat, she spins. When she spins, she gives up her back, a la Chris Weidman versus Luke Rockhold, which led to his chin being completely taken away from him. He got destroyed. It's a horrible fight for him. She did that. She made that mistake. I did do a little bit of research. Valentina's actually been at a Muay Thai camp for almost this entire preparation. She's doing a lot of hard sparring, getting hit. I think that's a good sign. At her age, that she's still in there taking shots like that, I think she's prepping to try to walk through the boxing. I think she's trying to get into a more of a boxing range and hopefully get to an upper body clinch. I could very, very well see this fight ending similar to her fight against Jessica Andrade, where she gets to the crucifix, pounds her out with elbows. I have to pick Shevchenko on this one, guys. I resisted my urge. I wanted to pick Alexa, but I just feel like, once again, is the game plan reproducible? Alexa had like the best night of her life the last time, and it was a moment of pure triumph. I love to see it. Valentina, though, she's so consistent. That's what's got me worried for Alexa.
Right, right. I think it reminds me of the fight last weekend, to be honest with you. It's like Shevchenko is like Adesanya, who's dominated the division for so long, and you just never see him, like, okay, this person can never lose, and they do. How do they respond to it? I think Shevchenko's going to come out like Adesanya did against Bejeda and just be like on a mission and not be denied, and I think that's how Saturday's going to go. Shevchenko is always evolving. That's what I love about her. She's always evolving. She's so curious. She always wants to learn and to keep developing her game. And I think she's gonna have a chip on her shoulder Saturday and get that title back. I think it's gonna be a pretty dominant victory. Could be a knockout, like you said, crucifix, ground and pound with the elbows. She's nasty, man. She's gonna come out and try to make a point, in my opinion.
I don't know. I feel like I have to disagree with you guys on some of that. I'm going to play devil's advocate role. I want you guys to kind of think about this. Usman with Leon, I can see it being similar to that. I can see it being similar to kind of how Izzy's been doing. We see these fighters at the top who like seem like they're invincible, and then now there's people below them are slowly evolving, and catching up. Maybe it's the age getting to them. I don't think Shevchenko has to worry too much about the age. I know people are worried about the wear and tear. That could definitely be a possibility. But after what I've been seeing lately, the other fighters just evolving and catching up. I did go back and watch the last fight, and I think, basically to sum it up, this has to be a chess match. They have to play their advantages. In the last fight, I saw that Shevchenko was definitely utilizing the legs in the beginning, the leg kicks, and she kind of stopped when she knew she could get the takedowns. But my big highlight, one of my notes when I was rewatching this fight, is Valentina has to do something with the takedowns. So I put a thing, just finish it. Like, you got to somehow finish it out, because next thing you know, you're gonna be standing up and you're gonna have to deal with the boxing again. Back to what Alex was saying, closing the distance. I'm not sure if she can do that with Grasso. That's where the gap comes into play, where I think Grasso can win this fight. I think she's going to defend the takedowns well, and then she's going to outplay her on the feet, and that's kind of equal out and make Grasso the winner, in my opinion. I think we're going to see level changes with Valentina. She's going to have to kind of outpower her. But at the end of the day, if the rounds keep going on, I think it plays an advantage like it did last time with Grasso.
The smaller fighter.
Yeah, I think Grasso can improve too, man. I think she's got that takedown defense, like just not getting to the ground. If she can do that a few times, especially for the first 3 rounds, I think she can definitely come out with the win. But yeah, I think Valentina has to do something with those takedowns. Like ground and pound, go for the finish, even though it's not necessarily what she can, she's not typically what she does, but that's kind of like my prediction. I think Grasso wins by decision.
And, lest we forget, Valentina has trouble leading, being on the front foot.
I think if Grasso wins, it'll be by knockout if she wins. I don't think she will, But if she wins, I don't think it's going to go to decision. If this fight goes 25 minutes, Shevchenko will be the winner. She knows how to win rounds, in my opinion. Plus, it is in Mexico, so Grasso does have the fans. Every single jab she lands, the fans are going to go crazy, right? So maybe that plays a part in the rounds. Maybe Shevchenko has a tougher time winning round by round. But I don't think this will go to decision if Grasso wins.
It's fascinating because, bottom line, Shevchenko is fighting for legacy. When I watched her fight against Juliana Pena, it's interesting. She went after the grappler and beat the grappler with grappling. And that kind of tenacity is something that I want to see again from Valentina. I want to see fighters that come after people. I want to see a champion that actually comes after people and finishes them. That was one of the reasons why John Jones's run was so special. He was like a video game character that stole your moveset, used it against you, and beat you with it. It will always be remembered as something that's beloved because of that run against all dangerous, heavy guys. For this, a big knock on Valentina for a long time has been that maybe some of the fights are ineffectual. Like you said, it's a chess match. And I think it's a lot of the same criticism that GSP got near the end of his career where, it's getting to be a decision. But, man, you try getting in there. And to Simon, your point, people have the benefit of sitting around and watching hours of your footage, just like with Adesanya. They can study you and pick you apart. Might as well, I'm going to see every hole. I'm going to exploit it. So, end of the day, Valentina is my call. But, guys, if you're out there betting, I would avoid this fight like the plague. Because, first of all, the odds are so damn close that even if you go for the dog, I'm not so sure it benefits you that much unless it's part of a parlay, whatnot. But I would stay away from this fight. It is live. I have no idea what to truly expect. It's exciting as hell.
And I must say, too, I'm not super confident on Grasso as much as I have made it seem. But just watch. I think it's going to be similar to kind of Leon and Usman. I think Grasso just has her figured out. So that's just kind of my opinion, but I'm not sure.
We shall see. All right.
You want to take us home, Simon?
That's it.
Yeah, I didn't write down any Spanish to get us out of here. I mean, adios, I guess.
Yeah.
Adios.
That's it for
We'll see you guys soon.
That's it for today. Yeah. All right, you want to finish with that? You're good. Let's see what she said.